The National Identity Management Commission, NIN-SIM, has since last year been dominating discussions. The Nigerian Communication Commission, the NCC, had released a statement setting December 30th, 2020 as the deadline for incorporating the National Identification Number, NIN, with SIM cards. Nigerians rushed to various centers to meet up so as not to get disconnected by their service providers. Well, there's been review to that date since then, which is why a lot of Nigerians still have functioning mobile lines now. However, it is worthy of note that NIN-SIM did not just start its operations, neither did the directive to link national identity numbers to SIM just begin. So one would ask, why the rush now? Well, the next 25 minutes would answer that question and many more that you've been asking about the process. So just stick with Special Report. I'm Ini John Mekwa. In the United States of America, it is called Social Security Number and is handled by the Social Security Administration, an independent agency of the U.S. federal government that administers Social Security. In the United Kingdom, it's called National Insurance Number. National Insurance Number, which is also known as NI, is used to give tax and benefits. It's a requirement for anyone who intends to get a job and work in the UK and is administered by the Department for Work and Pensions. In the Republic of South Africa, every citizen must apply for an identity document from the age of 16. This has the South African Social Security Number and is regulated by the South African Social Security Agency. In Nigeria, the National Identity Management Commission was founded in 2007 to, as the name implies, regulate identification of Nigerians by creating a database and connecting every individual with a unique 11-digit number which is non-transferable. The Commission should have its presence in all parts of the country to simplify the process for the citizens. Fumi Okpesanwo is the regional coordinator for NIN-SIM in Lagos.
As part of our mandate, we are to harmonize and integrate all existing identity data sector in Nigeria. As an applicant that you walk into our office, you want to get enrolled into the National Identity Database, what we do basically is, first of all, to issue you an enrollment form. I know that this form is also on our website, whereby you can fill it, print it, and bring to us. We also accept that. So what we do is that when you come into our enrollment center to register, we issue you this enrollment form, assuming you don't have access to internet, because not all Nigerians have access to internet. So we issue you the enrollment form, you fill it, then you proceed to the enrollment desk, whereby the enrollment officer is there to take your information via a secure internet connection. So what we do is that once you fill in your details, we input the demographics that you've given us. You confirm as the enrollment officer is typing, inputting your details, and we ensure that there is what we call the biometrics capturing, because that's the most important of that enrollment process, because our fingerprints are never the same. We are unique. That's why the national identification number is unique. So what we do is that we'll take your head to shoulder facial picture. We'll take your digital signature. We'll take your 10 fingerprints. We have a standard of how we'll take that biometrics capturing of your fingerprints. And all those things, by the time the system, the database is taking in this new INI's data, it's going to go through what we call a deduplication process, whereby it simply means it's going to check whether INI is already on the database. Once it checks, it cross-checks with the millions of data that, okay, INI is not already on that database, it now locks up your information. It's like, let me call it to the layman, like a storehouse. It now locks up your demographics with your biometrics, everything together. It now locks it up and zip it with an 11-digit non-intelligible number, which is a unique identifier. That is your NIN. So once it's successful, it will generate that NIN for you, and you have what we call the National Identification Number. And that number is your identity. It's what we can authenticate and verify across the whole world over a secure internet connection. It's so you. That's why as a commission, we are to provide an assured identity for all globally, not only in Nigeria. You understand? So that unique identifier is a national identification number. Mind you, you notice that I've not talked about the card. The card is a token that will still issue. But we've entered this digital identity age, whereby what we are talking about is electronically authenticating and verifying you as an individual or an entity.
This process, according to Mrs. Opesonwo, should happen as early as once a child is born, long before an individual becomes an adult, although it should be updated at the age of 16. However, this process has not always seemed popular to the citizenry, which is why NIN-SIM offices witnessed a rush after the National Communication Commission gave a deadline of linking individuals' NIN to SIM. In the last week of December 2020 up until the second week of January 2021, even after the extension of the date, NIN-SIM centers had to host young, old, and people of different social circles. Conducting the process in an orderly manner became a huge task.
You know how our citizens are, and we need attitudinal change. We announced this in television, including Channel Television announced that all the process must be under COVID-19 guidelines. But citizens will go there. Their names are not in any way part and parcel of those to be captured, but they will go and stay at the gate. If you ask them to leave, they will not. And even security agencies had been there. They had been pleading with them, but they will not go. It was announced since February 2020. And I think the first day that policy was announced in this country was on 4th February 2020. And it was transmitted to the Nigerian Communications Commission and NIN-SIM then. However, at that time, NIN-SIM was not under our supervision. So it was announced that each and every citizen who owns a SIM card, from that time, February 2020 to December 2020, he should ensure that he obtains his national identity number and submit same to the mobile network operators.
And all this in the face of the second wave of COVID-19, which has seen the country crossing the 100,000 mark for total infected persons.
Nobody feels good. I don't feel good looking at this kind of picture where people are gathered in multitudes and, it's like a super spreader event, which we don't like. But I'm also aware that the relevant ministry, which is, communication and digital economy, is looking at this. My understanding is that the whole process may be suspended so as to reorder the whole process in terms of management of the crowd, because it was never intended that it will become a rowdy process like that. So people may have to wait and be called at intervals to go through the process if they have to be there. But I also understand that ordinarily this is something that they're supposed to do online without even necessarily going to these centers. But whichever way, we have a duty as government to ensure that people are protected. But we also have a duty to ensure that people comply, within limits of what is good for the society at large.
Why should we be talking about national identity card now, where people are clinging and climbing over one another? What is urgent in getting national identity card? I did my own I filled my form in 2015. Up to today, I don't have an identity card, national identity card. So what is the urgency? And I believe, the Nigerian Medical Association believe very strongly that there is no urgency for the national identity number that they are asking for. It can be suspended until we are able to appropriately respond to the COVID pandemic. It's a contradiction because we are saying that we should have social distancing. The same government who says there should be social distancing is saying that there should be national identity where there is no preparation for social distancing. So it's a contradiction. And we would expect a wave from those sites, and there are very many in this country.
Other Nigerians share the perspective of the Nigeria Medical Association. Technology consultant Taiwo Yelowo believes that identifying all Nigerians is pretty much global standard, but the approach should be adjusted.
It takes years to be able to achieve the level of efficiency we're looking for with this, no matter the amount of technology you want to put behind it. And for one reason, and one reason primarily, it's a security apparatus, or what you want to call it. It's a security feature for everybody. You're asked to protect your social security number in the United States. You're asked to protect whether your PENCOM, your social insurance number in Canada, you're the one in Brazil, whatever it is, wherever in the world, you're asked to protect it and guard it jealously because it can be used for identity theft. So it can be treated in such cavalier nature that we're doing right now in Nigeria. So we need to understand that. And for that reason, it can't also be something that is done remotely or something that is done largely or left to the discretion of the person, of the enrollee, in this instance, citizenry. So, because the same way you're getting your international passport, you have to go through a process. You fill in the forms, they do some cross-referencing wherever necessary, and then you do your data capture, which includes your fingerprints, includes your photo ID, photo capture, and maybe a few other things. So same way, it has to be done. That process has to be done. However, so we can't take away that physical side of it in itself. That's the first thing. I think the NIMC did something good by having a pre-enrollment portal where people can go, fill in certain details, and then get some kind of, so they sort of get into the queue, and it makes it easier when they go for the physical enrollment and they present like a slip or present a number or a barcode or whatever it is, and you get it done faster in that sense. But that portal, for example, isn't working. I mean, a few other services are not working as well.
NIN-SIM assures that the crowd would soon be a thing of the past, as plans are underway to decentralize the process.
If you have any inquiries, come this way. Any inquiries, come this way.
Now, we have what we call the digital ecosystem. It simply means that we have licensed agents approved by the federal government to assist NIN-SIM in data capturing. So we have over 200 licensed agents. We have both public enterprises, we have government institutions that have been licensed to capture. So what we do at the front office there is what they will do. Just like the telcos, we have the MTN, the Airtel, the Nine Mobile, and the Glo. They are also licensed to do data capturing. And I know that in the next few days, you can see adverts running on national TV of all these telcos ready for enrollment. I know that they'll soon start advertising for those locations where the friendship centers will be running. So ecosystem is just to populate the national database. And the beautiful thing is that this project is funded by the World Bank, the EU, and the AFT. So it's a project that, because I told you earlier that it's to give an identity management solution. I told you that NIN is a problem solver, and it's a world practice. It's a global practice. So it's being funded by the EU, the World Bank, and the AFT. So it's a pay-per-play that it's for every NIN successfully generated, the licensed agents get paid. So it's going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll see that all our national database has been well populated, and we can now start seeing the benefits of the NIN.
This planned decentralization is a disturbance to Mr. Yelowo, who fears the possibility of abuse of data.
Data that is captured while you're doing your international passport can be fed into that entire system, that process. So, for example, somebody that goes to the United States and immigrates to the United States, for example, does data capture at some point when they go for their visa or whatever, maybe at the airport or wherever it is that they do it. But they do it once, and if they go there, let's say they get maybe a green card or whatever it is that they get at that point in time. they're not repeating that exercise when they go and apply for their social security number. They don't have to, because it's already been captured once. So the data is what's important. The most important thing is to ensure the security of that data, which means it's not loosely available there. It's well protected. Number two is to ensure data privacy, that people's personal information is not just floating all over the place. Like we saw, I saw some years ago when a lot of the SIM card registration, we had a lot of data floating around. And I've seen people show me an entire, in fact, telcos network data, on their systems, in that sense. How is it possible that a single individual will have access to all of that information, in that sense, on their computer? Look at the integrity of the data, which means at every point in time, when that data is called upon, it returns the same value and it's consistent, across board.
There are regulations surrounding this, just like the regulations surrounding us as a staff capturing in NIN-SIM offices. Also for the licensed agents, for instance, Lagos State government through LASRA won't want to compromise the standard as the state government. CBN will want to compromise the standards. The telcos will want to compromise the standards. But there are regulations surrounding this licensing, because we have to ensure that the process remains transparent, even though you are assisting in this population of the database. So there is no problem. I want to assure we are really talking about data protection. So we know the importance of all the licensed agents conforming to the standards, laid down standards of NIN-SIM.
Responding to calls for postponement, the deadline for linking SIMs to individual NINs was moved to February, but even this seemed unsatisfactory to many, considering that the crowd still gather at registration centers. With the rush comes allegations of compromise. The process of acquiring a NIN for the first time is free and only requires exchange of documents. Fees apply at the point of correcting information already saved in the database, as well as replacing cards. However, some individuals allege that this is not the case.
What they are trying to do is to extort us. 6,000, 5,000. The list is 3,000.
Yeah, I actually paid 3,000 naira to fill the form, and they said I should come back on the Thursday for capturing. Friday I will get the NIN. I just complete my process of getting the SIM back, but I've actually registered for it. I paid 3,000.
In the first week of January, the Ministry of Communications had suspended staff members of NIN-SIM involved in the extortion of applicants.
At NIN-SIM staff, we are so professional. We won't toe that line. No, we won't. So what we've been having, and I've heard a lot of stories that they are collecting this immediately. Once we can say, okay, please show me this person. We've realized that in most centers, they are touts. They are touts. In all those local government offices, we don't have control over the centers. They are touts that are doing all this evil extortion. But then they don't know who is who. They say it's NIN-SIM staff, NIN-SIM staff. A NIN-SIM staff of today wants to secure his or her job. Nobody wants to lose a job or his job. So I can tell you authoritatively that a NIN-SIM staff will never do that. But we don't have control of those centers because of the touting that's so prevalent in those centers. Then here in the state office, we have the civil defense. So it's either you are wearing a uniform or you are wearing a mufti. And, the giver and the receiver of the bribe, they are both guilty. So if you apprehend you, both of you, and you just hand you over to the security agency and say, okay, this is the person that offered the bribe, this is the person that received it. Please handle it.
Then came the strike. NIN-SIM workers became scared as all safety protocols were thrown away for the rush to get NIN, exposing them to high risk of possible infection, among other reasons. They down-tooled, but the people would not hear of that. They continued to throng various centers in the country asking for their identification number. NIN-SIM staff say they've had conversations with the minister and other stakeholders and laid bare their needs. Consequently, they resumed work and gave a 21-day ultimatum for the government to meet up with their needs.
We asked the management even before now that they should help us with more working tools. If we have more computers, if we have enough manpower, we have more staff. If we have more computers here, I can tell you, if we have up to 60 computers here working at a time, this crowd in less than 2-3 hours will clear them. So if the federal government should help us, this one is not a welfare issue again now, because we know why we are here. They should help us. Then this job will do it.
The immediate past president of the Institute of Software Practitioners in Nigeria, Mr. Yele Okeremi, thinks that one way to reduce the needs of the staff at the center is collaboration among agencies like the Federal Road Safety Corps and Immigration Service.
Naturally, we want to get driver's licenses. Nigerians, we do international passports, we do bank accounts, we do mobile telephones. What they should have done right from day one, which is what I had insisted, was all those agencies where you are getting a mobile phone, all of them should have asked you for your identity, your national identity. And if you have a national identity, if you give them a number, all they needed to do was to verify that the name that you are presenting is consistent with the name that has been supplied in the database. And of course, they can also do very simple technology of facial recognition, just to be sure that the applicant is who he says he is, against a central database held at NIN-SIM. And if you do not have a national identity number, that shouldn't be a problem. Those agencies would have been able to capture the biometric requirements for the national identity number and send them over to NIN-SIM via a very secure protocol. This is very easy to do. Send them to NIN-SIM via secure protocol. NIN-SIM does the check to be sure that no such identity exists already in the system. And once they are clear that that is so, they supply the national identity number to both the agency that has requested for the national identity number, and of course also advise the citizen that this is your national identity number, and then such a citizen will be able to use the number wherever she goes. It's as simple as that.
A proper identification system has its numerous benefits, from economic planning to tracing criminal individuals. So we really hope that this works. But of course, with consideration given to the pandemic, which the world is still trying to contain. Well, that's it for this episode of Special Report. If you missed any part of it or any episode, please log on to Channels TV YouTube channel and watch them. And while you're watching, please leave a comment or two for us through our email or Twitter handle. See you next time. I'm Ini John Mekwa.